Della stared at the email from the specialist in Anchorage, seeing nothing but disjointed words that she'd have to reread almost immediately. She'd have to repeat each sentence under her breath and give it context in a way that her mind simply wouldn't do on its own anymore. If she concentrated on the order of the statements hard enough, they would begin to cling together like wooden sticks in a pond, forming ideas that circled around until she could recognize them. Everything required a different approach now. All the routine tasks that used to feel automatic. She needed to focus harder to get things done. And there didn't seem to be a doctor alive who could say it was because of the physical damage or the emotional impact of living with a TBI. No sleep, dysfunctional memory, difficulty reading, cry too easily now? Could be plain vanilla human depression, or the fact that you survived a crash and nothing will ever be the same. Not your mind, not your strengths, not even how people see you. This letter didn't say anything new. And it didn't have to. Maybe it wasn't reasonable to expect anything more. Maybe it was enough to keep building this new life. Keep taking the meds, keep up the exercise, all the things they tell you to do. Be grateful that you made it this far. Alaska was extreme at times, but still, a refuge from a past she couldn't bear to revisit anymore. This opportunity had seemed like a miracle, a historic building for sale on the main street, priced low by an older couple who wanted to retire. Of course, she couldn't have started the bakery without help, namely the town's bookkeeper, Rita, and her husband, Jim. But here it was, functional now, with all of its challenges and chaotic ways of getting things done. Nothing ever worked the way it should. Half the rental bikes needed work, and Vulcan, the shop's dysfunctional oven, had already ruined 6 batches of lemon cream cupcakes today. She needed to focus on that. But first, the new recipes for next month. The thought of a cream cheese cupcake capped with purple frosting and dripping with fresh wild blueberries had been on her mind. And also, maybe, a spring cupcake that appeared to be completely made of Alaskan wildflower blossoms. It came to her as a rich chocolate muffin encircled by fondant blooms, pastel forget-me-nots, and the deep purple of bluebonnets. There was nothing she wanted more than to get the fondant mix out of the fridge and start testing shapes and color variations. This had been the change's unexpected gift, proof that the brain could compensate for loss, beautified damaged spaces with new passions and interests. Looking down at her phone, she realized it had buzzed at least twice with messages from Ivy, her lead barista and resident teen nihilist. It could be a problem at the counter downstairs, so she forced herself to concentrate on it. She tapped on the latest voice message.
Strange guy here waiting for you. He says his name is Luke Torres. Is he a stalker? Should I kill him?
Della frowned. Luke? He couldn't have come all the way to Alaska. Slipping off her stool, she crossed the small living room of her apartment to peer at the security camera footage from the shop. Sure enough, there he was, sitting by the fireplace. He seemed a bit older now, calmer. No longer her crew chief, a young staff sergeant, all fire and brash energy. This was a slightly different man, looking for a very different woman. Hadn't anyone told him that she wasn't the same person since the crash? Hadn't anyone mentioned how many problems she had, or that she couldn't pilot anything or even drive? Maybe they hadn't. Maybe he was waiting there by the fire, expecting to reconnect with a version of her who didn't exist anymore. The thought of that hurt more than it should. "You're just going to be disappointed," she murmured, shaking her head. "I'm not her, and I can't pretend to be. Not even for you."